What's up, everybody? Tricks Ridiculous back with another video, and in this one I just wanted to show the character that I will be bringing into my first blind raid run right when the raid drops. As you can tell obviously from the screen, it is Thor. So there were a few different characters I was waffling between: Thor, Hawkeye, Iron Man, and Kamala. Those four are really my four kind of best characters that I would have been most confident doing the raid in. However, really I have landed on Thor, and I'm just going to go through the gear I'm using and why. This is not something that I really think is going to be easy to replicate, because some of these gear pieces did take a long time to grind for, so it's not something I recommend you try to build exactly like for the raid, but just going to go through what I'm using in case you are watching us do the raid live, which we will be attempting it live basically right when the raid does come out. So if you're watching then, this is the build that I will be using. So it is a hybrid ranged heroic build. Obviously it's a high valor. I'm using 400 valor, right? So of course all of my heroics are going to be extremely powerful, and all of my crits will be extremely boosted there, and then a little bit of precision as well, right? Because of course we're going to be using the critical throw. You've probably seen this Thor build used by many content creators. Very straightforward, ranged with valor build, but for the gear perks that I'm using here, so I'm using this melee piece, really just a stat stick. Not the most perfect roll in the world, but it's got a high valor roll. The might and the intensity are a little wasted, but it's not too bad. Really the perk you're looking for is the Odin Force Flare. So that's increased attack damage from Odin Force attacks. That will basically apply to your lightning when you call it down. Obviously, since we're using auto crits on our ranged attacks, we will be doing those. We will be getting that extra 135% damage to all lightning since they're all crits. All right, so really good perk there, and just a good stat stick to have in this case. We don't melee at all, so we're not really using the heavyweight buff or the cryo accelerators. Those don't matter. All right, moving on to the ranged piece. Now this is my Tachyon's Raise that I finally got after a lot of grinding. This piece is an absolute unicorn. It's very difficult to get this, but you can see here I've got precision, valor, and intensity. The intensity not the most important, but I am not complaining at all. It's got targeted buff, range power attacks deal cosmic, and then targeted tachyon surge. So you'll see in the gameplay that I leave you with, I basically have targeted buff and targeted tachyon surge up all the time, and it's because it's so easy to crit with Thor's ranged attacks that it procs pretty much non-stop. Now the gameplay you're going to see is pre-buff Tachyon Surge. So Tachyon Surge, even in the gameplay I'm about to show you, is not actually working. It is being unnerfed on November 30th. So you'll see that what I'm doing now is not even with the extra 50%, and the build is still ripping through these 170 enemies as if they're not even there. All right, moving on to the chest piece, a very standard chest piece here. I'm using reactive protection. Taking damage grants a defense buff. Now, this is kind of an overlooked perk. Not a lot of people use defense buff, but it's very strong. It gives a 60% flat damage reduction while it's up. All right, so 30% chance. Taking damage obviously is a very passive thing. You're always taking some kind of damage, whether it's lasers, little things hitting you, damage over time, whatever. So it's up very often, okay? And other than that, it's just a great stat roll. Precision, Valor, Resolve, those are the big three, right? So this is just a great perk. The bottom two pieces, the Fire Resistance and the Spin Armor, are not the greatest. You'd much rather have something like critical. When you're at critical health, you get a willpower burst, and then armored in proximity to teammates. Those two are probably the better 2 and 3 perks to have, but honestly, again, not complaining. This is a great roll, keeps defense buff up all the time, and a great stat roll to boot. All right, and then in the 4th slot, I'm using the Cincture of Asgard Scion. I really love this piece. Lethal Jarvis Barrier is fantastic. Chance when defeating enemies to activate a Jarvis Barrier. I think you all know what that is. Ultimate Heroic Charge, standard, very powerful. Obviously, we're a Valor build, so we want that. And then increase the amount of energy from Odin Force by 10%. This is probably the weakest of the three, but honestly still not that bad because we're going to be spamming lightning from our ranged throws. This basically gives us 10% more, I guess I'll call it ammo to spam that lightning. So very, very good. You can get this with a legendary version as well. It'll still have the first two perks, and the third one will be random. So, if you can get like a third perk that says something like defeat 3 enemies, get a heroic charge burst, that would actually be really nice as well. Unfortunately, I've got a couple of these, and they have interesting perks, but the stat rolls are just not up there compared to what what the exotic provides. So I'm sticking with the exotic. I think it'll be perfect. And then of course, yellow ISOs, no surprise there. And then I'm using the Tactagon. You can also use the Ring of Nebelung. I know Thor, you might not think of that because he doesn't really generate his own orbs other than from takedowns. But if you're playing specifically in the raid and you're with teammates that have ways to generate orbs, let's say you're playing with a Hulk or a Captain America or even a Black Widow that's generating a ton of orbs that they themselves don't even need, this could be very useful because, again, Thor has the best heroics in the game. If you can get them back that much faster, that'll just be better overall for the whole team. So, Tactagon is kind of the more general option, but if the team play allows for it, the Ring of Nebelung can be very good as well. I would not recommend the Sacred Nornstone unless you're having trouble keeping damage buff up. With this particular build, I'm not, because of targeted buff. It's so easy to trigger it that I don't need the extra 4 seconds. And then the extra crit chance while damage boost is active, again, is not relevant because Thor auto crits with his ranged throws, right? So that's pretty much it. The only other things I'm bringing into the raid is I'm just keeping a few Vibranium ranged pieces in backup. They're nothing too fancy. You can see this one here, targeted protection, and then range power attacks Vibranium. And then I just got a backup one that's a pinpoint Vibranium, so range crits can activate a Vibranium payload. That could be good, obviously, because it's easy to crit with Thor. I don't expect to really use these too much, but we know that there are going to be some enemies in the raid that are highly resistant to anything except for Vibranium. So I'm just keeping these in my back pocket just in case I feel the need to switch to them. But I don't see that really being super necessary, at least for the normal version of the raid. So I fully expect that this is just my loadout throughout. Other than that, the skills are pretty straightforward, very general, specialty skills. The mastery tree, you can just take a screen share of this right now. But the only things that are really mandatory for this are critical throw, of course. This is how you get those automatic crits as long as you release the throw at the right time, which you'll see in the gameplay. And then the only other really useful perk here is Force of Will. Dealing damage while Odin Force is active recovers willpower per hit. Basically, this is a little funnily worded because I don't know exactly what triggers it, but all I know is when you throw a ranged hammer, it will actually heal you while you have this. So it's just a nice little kind of lifesteal, way to keep your health up as you're throwing those hammers. But other than that, that's pretty much it. Really, the theme of the build, if you haven't already kind of figured it out, is it just uses all of the best buffs in the game, and it keeps them up all the time, right? So damage buff, Tachyon Surge buff, defense buff, and Jarvis Barrier, with all extremely easy ways to trigger them, right? So it's essentially just a High Valor Thor that always has damage buff, Tachyon, defense, and Jarvis Barrier at all times. It's just a walking nuke, right? He's just constantly up, pretty much unkillable, always critting, having massive damage boosts, and just keeping all of the consistency. So that's really the build. Like I said, I'll obviously be doing the raid with all of my characters at some point, but this is just the what I'm considering my best character in this game right now. So it's who I'm most confident bringing into the raid for the first blind attempt. Once we understand the puzzles, we understand the mechanics, you'll be able to bring in characters that you're maybe a little less confident with just because you don't have to worry about, where the most difficult parts are. But going in completely blind, of course, I'm bringing my best, and this is what it is. We're definitely going to be doing the raid right on release live. I will be streaming it. So definitely check that out right on my YouTube channel. But other than that, guys, that is it for me. Definitely good luck in the raid. Be sure to join my Discord and follow on Twitter as well. Those links will be down in the description. We're going to be doing a lot of LFG on the Discord. You're not going to want to rely on raid matchmaking for this raid. Definitely going to want a solid group, and you'll be able to find that in the Discord. And gear help, things like that, all of that good stuff as well will all be discussed in there. But otherwise, that is all I've got in this video, guys. If you do like it, be sure to like and subscribe if you're new. But that's it for me. I will catch you in the next one.